Good evening, folks. Welcome to the April 18, 2017 Selectmen's meeting held in Selectmen's Chambers. At this time, I would like to call the meeting order and a roll call vote, please.
Carolyn Smart is present.
Cindy King is present.
Gordon Clark present. Could I please at this time, if Troop 10 would not mind, since I see they're here tonight, would they lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Troop 10. At this time, 1.3, I would like to announce that the meeting's being tape recorded. And 1.4, Chairman's additions or deletions. I have none. Cindy? Are you all set?
Good.
And Carol?
Yeah, just let folks know this was revised agenda today.
Yep.
Is that it was reposted today and those items were added.
Okay, thank you very much for that. 1.4, 2.1. At this time, Barbara Tanny, Town Treasurer, in reference to the approval and the award of notes and the execution of the documents. Thank you, Ms. Tanny.
This is just the formality of signing the documents for the renewal of our band. And Kathy here that has to be signed as the president. This is just the
Chairman, Vice Chair, Clerk, so I would go here.
Good evening.
Do you want to explain to folks the financing on this?
Sure, we have a band, it's a bond anticipation note. It's a short-term borrowing that we are rolling over. It matured, and I just have to renew it.
Cindy? Mr. Crowley, just signature is enough?
There's actually more than one document.
Okay. I'll let you go first.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got each document turned a separate way.
Thank you for noticing that.
Don't mind me. I just need to get along.
There's about 4 of them. To sign our lives away.
Good signing.
And we'll be paying down $100,000 on this at the annual town meeting, folks. So
Yes, yeah. Today's date. Which again is a normal expense. Yeah.
This is renewing bonds, right? Is that the just renewing?
Yep.
Is the interest rate better?
They're actually going up a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Do you know how much? Or
This one will be at 1.25.
what was the previous?
1%.
Oh, because just interest rates are going up.
Yep. They are
Is
on
the
rise.
principal different?
The principal, well, we did a $100,000 pay down for fiscal 17. We'll do another one in fiscal 18. And then part of this is also the $200,000 of it is in anticipation of the new fire substation borrowing. So once those plans are finalized, I'll be able to roll it into a permanent bond and have an interest rate stay the same.
So this rolled the capital plan that was approved, and but we'll also be talking about some borrowing that may need to happen at this town meeting as well, and just do it all.
Yeah.
If it's approved, and yeah.
That one does. Yep.
But not this one?
No. that one doesn't.
Folks, thank you for your patience. We just want to make sure we get this correct here.
Thank you.
No, we appreciate it. We'd rather do it once and do it right.
That it?
And that's it.
Oh, okay.
We are good. We seal that one? Yep.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, folks, and we're going to move on to 4.5, review, sign new 10-year Chapter 90 contract. Mr. Pryler?
You want to stay in Section 2 and just move down Section 2?
All right, absolutely.
Because the additions were actually added to the
They're
agenda.
already in there below.
All right, I'm sorry. I just got that. Thank you. At this time, 2.2, can we invite a representative from the Boy Scouts Troop 10 to come up and give us a reference to an Earth Day update?
Should be all together. Hi, I'm Irene Condon. I'm the Regional Recycling Coordinator for Massachusetts, as well as the Townsend Recycling Committee Chair.
Welcome.
And our big celebration is this Saturday, it's Town Common. And so for first business is last year we used the Council of Aging bus, and I need to get a signature from the town administrator as well as the Board of Selectmen just to say that we can utilize it again. I've already gotten signatures from everybody else. It's just formality. We're paying for the staffing and the gas through the Earth Day Fund.
If I'm correct, last year, we worked this all out last year.
Yeah.
Which one are we signing?
It's the same thing. I was trying to do the one that has all the signatures on it.
Okay.
So which
That one there.
So this one.
Parking behind the senior center library back to...
It goes from Atwood Acres
to a loop?
to the senior
Oh,
center
right. Okay.
to Town Common and back. So for what we always find is for Earth Day, we're getting more and more people, and people need more parking. And so, of course, we have parking here at Town Hall, behind Town Hall. We have it at the churches, which is great. If nobody's passed, we have it at the funeral home. We have it on the side streets, and so we have around. So with the bus, we also have the library and the schools to access more parking. We have a great event planned. It starts at 10 o'clock, and we have already 120 booths. So this is vendors, this is animals. We have, the whole theme is Four Paws, so bunnies, cats, dogs. We have kids that have made various projects like cat blankets, cat toys, doggy biscuits, all different things. There's various charities for various organizations. A lot of organizations from town, so rail trails to Board of Health to conservation. So there's a great time for the community to come together. We have various DJs, music, shows, flutists, various bands and shows. We also have a dog presentation, so if you guys want to take pictures of your dogs dressed up, you can come it's with the Friends of the Library, and they get dressed up, and you can just bring a picture. If you don't want to bring your dog, because your dog can't stand still being dressed up, take a quick picture, send it in, and you can win a prize. We have the Scouts here to help us say of all the things that we're bringing for Earth Day. So I think they're doing a big fundraiser on
papers, tops, jeans, ties, dress shirts, gowns, shirts, sweatshirts, vests, blazers, t-shirts, PJs, socks, ties, anything basically that you can find at home that is textile.
So we're doing the good, the bad, the ugly, the worn and torn, not only clothes, stuffed animals, your old boots. A lot of times we go through shoes and sneakers, especially kids, every 3 months. We don't want it in the trash. They have a fundraiser they're doing with it, so please bring over your bags. It's going to be right at the corner, so you can do a quick drop-off of that. They also are taking
cans,
returnable cans, and that's their fundraising for the year. And then here you can kind of show what's in here. We have paper shredding going on at the thing. So you bring your boxes of all your tax returns, all the things you're going through house, and you have all these things, and instead of you doing your own paper shredding, we have free paper shredding going on. Bring 2 boxes, bring 3 boxes, bring it on. We have local realtor, Sedari Real Estate, that is fundraising, funding the whole program. So it's free for town residents and everybody. It is a free program. So if you know people that are moving, bring it all. Bikes. If you have working bikes, little bikes all around, we are working with the Pepperell Library, Friends of the Library, and taking bikes because they have a program that they're doing. We have plant swaps. So as you're going through your garden and you realize you have a lot more annuals that just keep on, perennials that are popping up, and you're like, oh my goodness, they're taking over, dig them up, bring them, and they swap. You can either just drop them, take them, or do a swap. What else? I know I'm missing something. But there's a lot of fun stuff. Everything's on the Facebook page. Townsend Earth Day is on Facebook, and you can see all the events going on. And I want to thank these guys for helping out. And we're going to have a wonderful event. And after you get your fill of Earth Day, the next Saturday, the 29th, we'll be back on the Common at 9 a.m. for a town cleanup. So we'd love everybody to participate. You can participate early if you are already walking around and you go, oh my goodness, there's so much litter in this particular road. You can go to the Board of Health, get a special bag, and do a pickup, and that material can be disposed of for free. But you have to work with the Board of Health on the particular bags. Or come on the 29th, 9 a.m. at the Town Hall. Rain date, if it rains on the 22nd, will be the 23rd from 12 to 4.
This program was started last year, right? Was it very successful collecting a lot of the trash on the streets with the pink bags?
That was the first time we did the pink bags, but people have been doing them for over 10 years. It's just now we've been using a special bag. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Any questions?
Are there any days that, like, the bikes and, like, for people that might not be available, like, we're on school vacation this week, so a lot of people are away. If someone's not available on the 22nd for bikes and some of the things that are
The
unique
22nd we're doing at the town for Earth Day, but Pepperell is doing it now all the way up to the 29th. So they can go to Pepperell and dispose of it. They're having a community yard sale. You'll see the signs in the library in Pepperell.
Okay, right.
And of course, the recycling center is open, so people can come and we can recycle the bulky plastics.
I noticed that every Saturday I was looking at it personally for composting leaves and...
Yep, you can bring your leaves and
right
yard
now they're
waste.
open every Saturday for a number of weeks.
Yeah, so for the springtime we are open more, so please check the website for when we're open. Okay.
I think Karen might have a question.
I just wanted to point out that on Saturday, the library's open from 10 to 2, so for those people parking at the library senior center facility, if they could park in the senior center side, not to take library spots, that would be great.
Thank you for that, Karen. And thank you, folks. Thank you, Troop 10.
And bring your textiles. We don't want textiles in the trash or the recycling bins. We want them in the big bin. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like, I'll make a motion to authorize the town administrator and the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to sign permission to borrow the Counseling on Aging bus for the 2017 Earth Day celebration.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Since we're on the things that happen on the Common, I know it's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to just give an honorable mention to Jay Giles, who has performed on our Common for, I apologize for not knowing exactly, Earth Day or Public Safety. I mean, he's performed on our Common for a number of things, and he died in his home over the last week, and I just want to mention that, and if we could have a moment of silence with the chair's permission to acknowledge Jay Giles. And the work he's done in the community, not just in Townsend, but the region.
We'll just wait a second till they... Can you just close the back door? We just have a moment of silence. Thank you very much. I appreciate your kindness. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy, for those thoughts. Appreciate that. Moving on to 2.3 at almost on time here at 6:10, FY18 public budget hearings.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Private.
If I could ask the chair's indulgence to actually, I expect that'll take a little bit of time on the budget. We do have just the special town meeting warrant to get voted and approved to be able to be posted by the constable. If we could just take 4.8.
Absolutely.
And just take a couple of minutes to...
That's all right with you, Cindy and Carol?
Just 5 articles.
So we're going to move up just quickly up to 4.8 to review and approve the warrants.
So this is just the special town meeting. We'll be taking up the annual town meeting next week. There's a requirement for 14-day notice of posting for special, so that's why it's being posted this evening. You'll see the first article is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds from the Treasury a sum of money for paying longevity due a retiring employee. You'll recall that that was a Council on Aging employee that has some longevity pay that's due. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of X for the purpose of paying the overage for the program coordinator position, also at the Council on Aging. There was an overlap of staffing there, and there's an additional $2,000 that's required for the budget. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of, for the purpose of offsetting fiscal year 16 and 17 snow and ice deficits under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, 31D. So we'll have the final tally in 2 weeks on the floor for town meeting. We have a couple straggling bills still coming. It's setting around $171,000 right now.
Go ahead.
Article 4, to see if...
Mr. Crowley, just 1 second. I think Carol had a question.
Jim, didn't we pay off FY16?
We did last year.
So it'll reflect that in the motion?
It will.
then?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Article 4, to see if the town will vote to transfer $262,265.32 from the Special Revenue Access and Technical Comcast account to the Receipts Reserved Public Education Governmental Access, PEG, access account per the instructions of the Department of Revenue. What we have is the funding we've received under the 10-year franchise agreement with Comcast has been placed into the revenue account, and we set up a fund last year at town meeting, and DOR has recommended, they politely recommended, told us that it belongs in the receipts reserved for PEG access account, so hence the request from the town accountant coming in to make that transfer. So it's not spending any money, it's just putting it in the account that town meeting authorized last year. And lastly, Article 5 came in by petition, and it's to see if the town will vote to amend Section 138-5 of the general bylaws for the town of Townsend to include the following. And there are 3 paragraphs that describe in some level of detail, including with 1 footnote that shows on the text. And this has to do with Conservation Commission and the local wetlands bylaw. And it's specific in the 3rd paragraph to the 35-foot wide buffer. And that did get certified by the town clerk as having had sufficient signatures for inclusion in the warrant. So if it please the board, a vote to approve the warrant as presented and provide direction to the constable to post.
Carolyn, have any questions at all?
No.
Cindy? I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we approve and sign the special town meeting warrant for May 2nd, 2017, and instruct the constable to post such warrant.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have one original that you're going to make copies of? Does it matter?
I have multiple copies here.
We can just use this one.
Yeah, they're all copies. So.
Thank you.
So she needs, is the constable coming this evening to post? So she needs 5 copies of the signed. You might want to wait for her to sign. I always do that to her, and then she has to sign 5 copies.
I do the same thing.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah, I always feel bad.
It's with the green ink, Carolyn.
I don't know.
Only pen I
It's
gave
the
her.
pen that you gave me.
Spring is here. She's being
Spring is
cheerful.
here.
Oh.
Cheerful is good.
Easter ink.
Birthday.
Okay.
So today is the 18th, right?
Is there anything at this time, Mr. Crowley, you'd like to do?
Go back to the public hearing on the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, we just jumped ahead to the...
Okay, we all set? Okay, thank you very much for that. All right, we're going to go back to 2.3, and that will be FY18 public budget hearing. And the finance members are here, and
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Crowley will take it over at this time.
Thank you. For members of the board, members of the Finance Committee, and attendees in the audience, as well as those at home, this will be the second unveiling of the budget at a Board of Selectmen's meeting on television, and we did have a meeting with the Finance Committee last week, where we went line by line addressing concerns or questions that the Finance Committee had. In this version of the budget, there are a number of cells, boxes within the spreadsheet that are highlighted, and those reflect areas where question or concern was raised at the Finance Committee last week. So what I'll do before we open to questions, Mr. Chairman, is just hit those specific issues so people are up to date, because the Finance Committee meeting was not televised, and I think there were 5 of us, 6 of us in the room, so make sure everybody knows. So the first issue that was raised, or question, was appearing in the assessor's budget, which is on the very first page at the bottom. You'll see a highlighted cell of $1,100, and the original budget that was put forward had that figure at $900. The amount needed to be adjusted to $1,100 after the contract was executed for the supervisory union. So the request was originally submitted at 9. There was a revised request that's submitted at 11, so that's why you see that change. Next, you'll see Board of Assessors, the very next page, top line, repair and maintenance equipment, and there's an increase in that line from $8,010 to $8,350. That's based on actual need. Next, you'll see treasurer collector wages, quarter of the way down that same page. And there was a discussion at the Finance Committee meeting about whether or not the request that had been made by the treasurer collector for an increase of...
Are there additional copies in this area?
There are. I think there are four that I have here. People want to...
I'll share one here, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Folks, we have 4, so if you could just share them, please. And I would just ask everybody, we want your input, but just wait to be recognized so that we can stay on track, please. Thank you very much for that.
Is this going to be on our website? Okay. This will be on the website, so after...
The old update,
They're all...
everyone's on there.
Is this there already, or is it...
It's not. Until I had rolled it out with you, I wasn't going to put it out.
All right.
And again, this is identical to the budget that exists on the website, with the exception of the specific cells or budget items that I'm noting in this part of the discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Lizio.
Just a process question. I was in attendance at the meeting last week, and a few things came up in the discussion with the FinCom. I just wondered if any of those line items had been adjusted based on the conversation.
Ms. Lizio, if I could just have a point of order here. I'm going to let Mr. Kryler go through with his presentation, and then let the Board of Selectmen and the Finance, and then we'll take questions from, just so we're more orderly when we get through this. So, Mr. Kryler, if you could give your presentation, then I'll open it up to the Board and then to the Finance, and then we'll open to the public. We want to hear from you, but I don't think we're going to get through it unless we have a system here. So go ahead, Mr. Kryler, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Moving along, the next you'll see is in the treasurer collector's wages and operating staff wages. There was a question at the Finance Committee meeting last week as to whether or not the treasurer's request for an increase in 1 hour per week for her, one of her staff people, and her request for an equity adjustment in her own salary had been worked into the budget. As of last week when we met, it had not. Because it was raised as an issue, you know that we did have some additional news out of the school department that put a few dollars back on the table. So there are a couple of things where you may have raised an issue seeking to have it adjusted upward, or where you raised an issue and then I went back and was able to adjust it upward. This is one of those. Next you would see discussion we had regarding legal services. I had been carrying $38,500, which is what I had seen over the prior several years before my arrival. I was advised by the Finance Committee and members in attendance that that number had been historically higher than that and was reduced several years ago. One recommendation that came in was to look at the 5-year average of what our legal expenses had been. So you'll see that there's a note there in the middle of that second page. It says moving toward a 5-year average of actual, and the amount that's budgeted in is $43,500. The 5-year actual is $47,478. Next, just several lines down below that, you will see the MIS salary technician position. There was a lot of discussion around this position. It is a new position being proposed. And when it was initially being proposed by the MIS director, the thinking was that this would represent bringing the MIS person from the police department under the MIS department in total. And that does not appear in this budget as having been done. The police department budget was left harmless in terms of MIS. So that person is still under the chief and still works over the police department. But the MIS director felt strongly about this position, so at this point in this presentation, that position is still funded. Next page, there are no changes. Page after that, there are no changes. Page after that, there are no changes. Page after that, there are no changes. And that brings us up to the Communications Center. We had a pretty healthy discussion about the communication center and the changes in that budget from last year to this year. And particularly this is driven by the fact that at the recommendation of both chiefs, the Board of Selectmen had agreed, and as a policy directive to me, required that it be budgeted in a fashion that has a contract for services with Neshoba. So dispatch is being performed by Neshoba Regional. And you will see in that budget, under the expense center communication, expense other services, $157,000. That is the assessment for our share of the operations at Neshoba. The thing that has changed in this budget is that cell that is highlighted halfway down the page, the figure of $40,560. The note, if you read in the note section, says that this reflects 60 hours per week for the greeter position that was contemplated in both chiefs' memos. The distinction is that this is at $13 an hour, which is a T1 step 4. So it's the first step in our wage matrix, the first grade, but it's 4 steps out to get to that $13 wage. The chiefs had originally been thinking a figure of $17. There was a great deal of discussion at the FinCom about the position not yet having a job description against which to rate it, as all positions are required to be rated. Discussion around the fact that it was to be a greeter position and not a law enforcement person. If you look at the fact that we have some public safety personnel already in the wage matrix as a grade 2, it seemed logical that these greeters will not be as responsible employees as those that are public safety professionals proper. So this may be something that over the course of time, after the job descriptions are finalized by the chiefs, would need to be reviewed again, but for the time being, this does accomplish the full 60 hours being funded within the communications budget as asked for by the chiefs, just at a reduced rate. The earlier budget, as recent as when we met last week, had a component of the Townsend Emergency Management being connected to this, such that one of the positions that was contemplated to be filling the greeter role was to be a member of TEMA. I heard loud and clear that that didn't sound like a good idea, so that has been discontinued. You'll note there is no reference to TEMA in that notation. The full 60 hours are funded within the Communication Center budget. We'll see a revision to TEMA when we get there. Nothing on the next page. Nothing on the next page. You then get to the very top of that next page, education. The very first cell is highlighted. That is because we received a revised assessment from North Middlesex. So when you look at that note, it says just that, revised assessment. So we saw a decrease in our assessment of roughly $15,000 as a result of a memorandum we received last Thursday from the superintendent's office. The very top of the next page, it's not a change from last week, but it's worthy of note because we did talk about it. This seeks to increase our snow and ice appropriation by $25,000 with a discussion from the folks at the Collins Institute that helped us with our revenue projections and our budgeting tools, and conversations with the Select Board. The indication has been to try to move that number north, keep it reasonably a reasonable number, but not one that we fully expect will cover all expected overages. What people may or may not know, I know Finance Committee and Select Board do, once you increase this at a town meeting, you cannot reduce it. You're held to have that amount in your budget. It is the one item that you're allowed to deficit spend in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, recognizing that if we know that our average is 300 or 320, and we budgeted that, then we have a mild winter, we will have locked up a chunk of money that could otherwise be used for other operations, and particularly in cities and towns that are struggling under Prop 2.5. The legislature saw fit to allow that to be deficit spent and picked up in the following town meeting. Nothing else on that page. Next, you'll see in Council on Aging, there was some discussion regarding the first two line items in Council on Aging, the director's wages and the operational staff. As this budget currently sits, as I had proposed, the budget requests that had been made by Council on Aging had been funded. So there was an increase in the director's hours from 35 to 40, an increase in the program coordinator and kitchen manager hours as well. There was some discussion that was going to require some follow-up from members of the Finance Committee last week. I did reach out after our meeting and spoke with the director, let her know that there were some questions, and asked that she be in attendance this evening to be able to speak to them if people had questions or concerns. So when we get to the open discussion, that can take place. Very next page, you will see that there is, under library techs, there is a highlight on that box, and there was a considerable amount of discussion about the proposed new staff position to handle the influx of kids when the school bell rings. And I don't think we resolved anything in our conversation last Thursday night when we talked about it, but because we did have a pretty lengthy conversation, I wanted to highlight that cell so we can make certain we touched on it tonight. And there's nothing on the next page and nothing on the last page. So with the exception of those items that I just cited, everything else is as it was at the last Selectmen's meeting when this was rolled out, and appears as it did when I sat with you last week. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if members of the board have any specific questions, or members of the Finance Committee. We can handle those first.
If I could just do one thing, if you don't mind, Carolyn, sitting here, is sometimes we don't recognize our volunteers. So if the finance members could just stand up and say their names, so I know you don't want to do that, but here's the deal, is that we are in good shape because of people like you working with us. So I would like you just to say your name so people out there know, recognize you, please. I did it to Hartley, so I have to do it to everybody. So.
Okay, Lynn Pinkerton, Chairman.
Thank you.
Gerald Zegas, Vice Chairman.
And to all, thank you. To all the other members who are out here, we diligently thank you, and it's been a nice working relationship between you and Mr. Crowell and everyone else, so thank you for that. Now at this time, if anyone from the Board of Selectmen or the Finance Committee have any questions for Mr. Crowell, we could have that discussion now. Do you have any questions for Mr. Crowell? Decide whatever you want.
No, he went over all the questions that we had brought up on Thursday.
Okay.
So some of them still need discussion before approval.
How would you like to go about doing that?
No, Andrea's not here. Okay. She was going to send out the questions.
Does anyone have any suggestions how we go forward with this, Mr. Crowell?
Well, if I could, Mr. Chairman, I think of the items that are highlighted that we spoke about, I think everything that I did was what you had indicated you would like to see. The things that I think are still live, Lynn, appropriately, as you stated, are library and Council on Aging. Treasurer collector to a degree. Other than those three, I think everything else that I highlighted reflect what it was that I heard as consensus from you at the meeting last week.
Sure.
So if
and the police, we still haven't done that one yet either.
Understood.
Yeah.
So
do you want us to pick one? We're right here.
Whatever your pleasure. I mean, Karen's here, Stacy's here, so those two in particular could be addressed by the respective directors.
Well, hopefully Andrea was supposed to put them in writing. Well, that's right. But anyway, for the library, what we came up with for that position was, number one, it wasn't on the matrix, and number two, there was no job description, so that we could, decide.
We weren't sure really what you were doing. We can't just hand out money without a job description and say, here you go, good luck. You really need to know what the job description is. And where it's for the children, we kind of tossed that around a little bit because these kids are coming from a structured program all day from school into the library. And I don't know if you were thinking about going into another structured program, but at that point, I don't know if kids are going to want to be structured. But that's up to what you had planned to do with your, I don't know what you were planning to do, because we have no idea.
Mrs. Cloutier,
I think so.
I know who you are, because you just saw the people out there.
Certainly.
Thank you very much for that.
Cheryl Cloutier, member of the Board of Library Trustees, and I would like to respond because we came before the FinCom September 1st, 2016, and we presented our goals and our objectives, our rationale. We presented data regarding this position. We stated clearly that we expected the position to include monitoring the teen room, program planning for teens, after-school activities a few days a week, circulation desk in the teen room, school visits, summer reading, processing new books. And of course, we cross-train all of our library technicians, and so this new person would also be able to help with staffing throughout the library when people are on leave or vacation, etc. We really think that because these young people are coming over, sometimes 30 are walking in the door at once, or as happened recently, a group came over and they all had this purple goop, slime, something they had made all over their hands, and they all walked in the library. We need to have them involved in a positive way. We want them to be lifelong library learners. We understand about structured and unstructured time, but we want somebody who is dedicated to helping develop a teen program so that children are using, these young children, young people, are using their time appropriately. There's also a safety concern regarding the internet. If somebody, some young person parks themselves in front of a computer where they can't be seen, or the library staff is stretched so thin that they can't see what that person is looking at, there is the risk that they can be looking at something that's inappropriate.
Mrs. Cloutier,
why aren't there filters?
I think she has some specific questions. I don't know if it's against the position, and I'm not speaking for you, but maybe our human resources person is quite help us. I think one question was, is there a job description? Am I correct on that? So why don't we try to answer specifics?
Well, I think I addressed some of that just now in the duties.
Why don't we see if he can tell us, is there a job description, I guess. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Today was the first day I've heard that, and we came to the FinCom 7 months ago.
Okay.
So you can hear my voice going,
all right, well, that's what I'm trying to do is find, so we get facts here so we can work through us and get to all the other departments. So there's a couple questions, so if we can answer those, and we can work together to try to...
We are, in fact, our director, Ms. Shuttler, has already started a job description.
Okay, so the answer is, we're working on that, but we don't have one now. Would that be a fair answer?
Actually, can I...
We have a draft.
Can I answer that question, please?
One second, please.
I appreciate the finance committee's need to know what actually the position is going to be accomplishing, but as far as job descriptions, just like with the greeter that we were just talking about, communications, oftentimes that work isn't done until the money's approved because you go through a lot of process and you don't have the money there. So I think it's important that you guys, because it's your recommendation that's going to town meeting, so I want you to have the answers you might decide to recommend or not recommend, but I think having an overview of what that person is for is sufficient. My personal opinion would be sufficient for that.
And what do you think on those thoughts?
It should show something on the matrix, too, exactly where you want to put it.
I'll get right to you. Let me just, I'm not...
Well, the matrix is a whole system, so you do the job description and then you grade it accordingly, and that's how you come up with an exact salary figure. From what I understand, this is an approximation. Is that fair to say?
When we presented in September, we did give everybody this particular sheet of paper, which the Finance Committee should have somewhere in their notes. We were suggesting grade T2 step 1. So we did have a suggested, that's what we based the amount that we were asking for on. That's where the rest of similar positions started on that particular. So we did hand that out to the Finance Committee in September, and we were waiting to see if we would be called back for questions. We have more information. We are information gatherers. We could probably give you more information than you could possibly want at any time. And I do have a pretty solid job description, but again, it's not been finely tuned because we were waiting for the money to be, I have a draft of it, which I've had for a long time because we were looking to have this position for a long time. I spend a lot of my afternoons dealing with the after-school crowd. So, I may be working on something and the after-school crowd comes in and, as the director, I'm the one who's following them down the hallway, bringing them soap to make them wash their hands because they've got poop on them and vice versa. So, did that answer?
Well, I think
Yeah.
what I try to do is just get us on track.
Yeah.
Because everyone here has passion for what they do.
Right.
But on the other hand, and that's good. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
So all I'm trying to do is help us all find out where we're at and to try to be reasonable. At this time, I just want to make sure that, Cindy, do you have any concerns, questions? All right, Mr. Crowley, do you have anything to add? And do you have any more follow-up?
As long as we are all on the same page.
That's all I'm trying to,
Do you need me to resend the
I think it would be,
paperwork that
I
you all
wish you
have?
would, yeah.
Yeah, because we got new players.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
they
say.
don't have the stuff or whatever, so.
It would be good to have it resent, it would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, that's great. Now I'm going to turn to Carolyn, because I'll be quite honest with you, this is my first week as chairman.
I know.
And here's the deal is, because of people like you, hard work, and this lady over here, and these people here, this is all together. So I'm not going to sit here today, my first day, and act like I have all the answers.
Right.
So I'm going to rely on
Well,
Carolyn
have all the
at this point, and Cindy, to, if they're all set here, I'm just going to open it to some questions for the audience. Would that be good, if we go from, or should we do it at the end?
I just don't know if the other one was the Council on Aging. Before we open it to the floor, you want to
That's a good idea.
hear from Karen on...
That was the 8 hour, it's staying open till 8. If,
Oh, yeah, that.
you know how you want it, yes. If you,
They said, the group said that if you stay open till 8 o'clock every Wednesday, then we would approve the budget.
We do stay open until 8 o'clock.
but it would have to be a continuation, not like, like 3 months from now it's not working.
Canceled.
Oh, no, we plan on staying open till 8 o'clock every Wednesday, and the biggest reason for that is a large percentage of the 60 to 69-year-old population still works. And being open till 8 o'clock on Wednesday definitely brings in that demographic, and it's really great. So
Is it 55 or 60?
55 is the state's senior level, the Council on Aging for the state, but a lot of places say 60, so I base all of my demographics on 60. Okay. But if you're 55, you can join the senior center. The Seen-Age Center, because we're seniors.
We're not that far behind.
So that's the only one we had.
Gordy's there.
I'm there.
Sure that it was going to continue.
Can I say a statistic that I figured out today? On the average, in 2016, we had 940 people a week come into the senior center.
Great job.
Or participate in a program.
So before I turn it back to Mr. Crowley here, who's guiding, and Carolyn was guiding me through this here, is what I feel is that Stacey, it could be nice to send that additional information to them. They would be comfortable with that. Is that correct? And then Karen, if you could just say that your intents to do this and an email to them.
Absolutely.
And the communication's there, and no one say you didn't say it or did say that. And is that a fair compromise on that for everybody? Cindy, do you have anything else?
So just to go over, I know Sue had brought up process. So the process for the budgeting we have a new policy, but it's not a lot different. That's what's occurred. The town administrator is charged in the charter with developing a balanced budget based on the Board of Selectmen's policy directives, and I think it's been the same the last 2 years. We hate to tax full levy with the new debt coming on board from the school. So to grow a surplus as possible, basically. And we saved money in our tax levy last year, which was the first time we did taxable levy. I know it got changed on town meeting floor, so it wasn't as much as we wanted. And ultimately, that's what we've done this year. I know there's $25,000 sitting there, and then with the added additional revenue, a little bit more. So that was basically our policy directive to him. So he put together a balanced budget based on the needs of the different departments, and he submits it to the Finance Committee for their recommendation. The Finance Committee's recommendation is what goes to town meeting, but there will be a column for department requested, like there is every year. So, you know, if a department requested X, but the FinCom's recommending Y, you have the ability to discuss that on town meeting floor. And people are aware of what you're asking for. So that's kind of the process, and that's where we're at. So this is the second time this board has discussed it, and like Mr. Kreidler said, we did attend the Finance Committee's meeting, and they're finishing up what is going to be the ultimate recommendation to town meeting. So.
Thank you for that, Carolyn. So you have Mr. Kreidler? Are you folks also? Okay. I'm going to take a few. We have a lot of work here. We're going to take a few if there are any questions from the public out there. The only thing I would ask you is that we identify who you are, please, and that you're a Townsend resident, and that the questions are specifically about FY18 budget. Is there anyone who has any questions at this time? Right here, Ms. Can you just identify yourself, please?
Veronica Kell.
Thank you.
Resident.
Thank you.
Conservation Commissioner. I have a question about the FY18 request and FY18 TA recommend for the Conservation Commission budget. And under
Can you just give us a second, Mr. Crowley? You're going to pull that up so we can just follow you, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want, so once you ask it, we can just follow the question. Let me know when you're ready, folks.
Anybody know the account number real quick?
Do we know the account number?
Is that the number at the beginning in the first column?
Yeah, just the first three digits.
001-171.
171.
171.
Okay, Ms. Kell, just 1 second. Is everyone at that spot now?
That's where the Conservation Commission is.
All right, I'm just waiting till everybody's on the same page, because if they want to follow your question, it's easier if they're right there.
Yeah.
So thank you for your
You can
patience.
find if you have the third section, that 171, you can find it, everything is in numerical order, might not be in alphabetical order.
So we're just waiting for everyone to have that. I'll let you know, Ms. Kell, in a second. Thank you for your patience. There's a lot of paperwork here, so. Okay, are we there, folks? All right, Ms. Kell, if you could go forward. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, so the question is, how many hours for the conservation agent? And I don't know if you want these all at once, or... And then conservation support, which I'm assuming is our administrative assistants. So right now, I know we have, I believe it's 20 hours a week for the agent, and 15 hours a week for the administrative assistant, which I believe is what conservation support is called. Is that the case here?
Through me to Mr. Crowley, could you answer that, please?
Absolutely. To Ms. Kell's question, this is as was submitted to keep the existing staffing as it is. So if it's 15 and 20, then it's 15 and 20.
So this is the same as the existing staffing?
Correct.
Okay. And the new position is, because I know last year at town meeting we had said 35 hours for the agent support position together. And this says new position, split position, new position. Could someone explain that to me?
Mr. Crowley.
The way it was actually staffed out last year was to split the 35 into 20 and 15 and have two physical bodies to allow for some cross-training and some overlap in staff time. So this is as they were hired out last year.
Okay. So then under land use, 179, is that Ag Commission then a new, I know that the Agricultural Commission is like a subcommittee of the Conservation Commission. There was never any discussion in Conservation about this 3 hours per week Ag Commission. Is that a new position? That this support position?
Can you, Mr. Crowley, just answer that, and we'll go forward from there, please?
Absolutely. The Ag Commission position, it's not under the conservation budget because you're correct, it was not addressed to the Conservation Commission. A comment came in that the Ag Commission wanted to be able to be more effective and do more, and thought, one member at least, in speaking with me, that to have some support staff time would allow more to get accomplished. So I did speak with the land use administrator. I spoke with some other members of the land use office to see if anybody had an interest in picking up 3 hours if we could get it budgeted. And initially, the support staff position had an interest, has since declined for some family reasons. So right now it's budgeted but not yet spoken for. If it does live the day on town meeting, it will either live under land use or be presented out from land use to conservation to see if conservation wants to have it under their budget if it's to continue next year.
So this is an additional 3 hours over and above the 15 for the administrative assistant?
It's an additional 3 for whomever it lands with, correct.
Okay.
Ms. Kell, could I just take 1 second here, please? Only because I'm giving it a little more latitude because you are on the commission and it is your budget, but I just want to make sure that before we go on and on, that everybody's following where we're at. So I would ask the board first. Carolyn, are you good at this point?
Yeah, we had discussed this at the last Selectmen's meeting.
I just find if we take it in increments, that we won't get lost what we're talking about. We're clear.
Okay, so...
Well, I'm not done yet. Just give me a second, please. Thank you very much for your patience. Cindy, are you all set? Mr. Crowley, you're all set?
Yes.
And the Finance Board, are you all set? Right. Thank you for your patience. It's just that we can all agree that we're good with the explanation. So if you could go forward.
The Agricultural Commission is meeting. I know they haven't met in the past several years. So is this something that is going to be announced to the town for people that want to be on the Agricultural Commission, for example?
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
To Ms. Kell. My understanding is, based solely on a conversation with one longtime member, as I understand it, of the Ag Commission, and a conversation I had with one other member of the Ag Commission subsequently, that they want to be more effective, they want to do more, and they think that having the staff hours will assist them in doing so. So whether that means that when the Ag Commission gets up and running, it's the same people or new people, I can't speak to. That's obviously, if the call goes out and a notice is posted for consideration of people to apply to be on the commission, whatever's going to come of that's going to come. But this is if and when the Ag Commission is up and running, this would be 3 new hours per week on average. So it could be that in the winter months there are no hours being used, but in the summer working on a farmer's market there are a number of hours used. But this would be solely for that, and as of right now they are new hours and they're not assigned to anyone.
Who appoints the Ag Commission?
Talk about in the committee. I think the Board of Selectmen.
My understanding is it was the Board of Selectmen, but I stand to be corrected.
Yeah, we'd have to look it up. It's been years since I looked at that. This was something that we had discussed last time, too. They're very much interested in establishing farmers markets, and there's some additional grants to get that going, but they kind of needed, from what I understood, some staff to help organize that. So that's primarily what the additional hours would be used, is more to organize, the farmers markets on the common and things like that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Are you all set, Ms. Kell, at this time?
Yes.
All right, thank you, and thank you as we work through this here. Do we have any other questions, please? Go right ahead.
Yes, my apologies.
Could you just identify who?
Yes.
I know we're learning new things, it's just that I want, so when people watch, no, don't be sorry, please. I'm just changing up midstream here, and my goal, and I hope I'm correct in this, is that if someone who's out there working every day and they come back to Townsend and they have their DVR and they want to see what's going on in their town on a Thursday night, they know who you are. Plus, it's a chance for us all as a community to understand who's giving of their time. So I'm not trying to make it hard for you, I'm just trying to make it more effective. So thank you for being patient.
I'm sorry, I meant to say that. My name's Allison Bird. I'm a library trustee.
Thank you.
And I apologize. I just wanted to revisit our discussion that we had a moment ago because we received notification from the FinCom today that you were not going to recommend our requested position. And then we just had this discussion. So I wanted to clarify whether we're going to continue to talk about it, or...
I think we just sort of clarified...
I just want to make sure that that's clear, because we received notification that the position would not be recommended.
All
right.
So
was that from Andrea?
Because that was that from Andrea?
Yes. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we're still looking at the opportunity.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't think Thursday there was a vote, but there was discussion about not recommending.
Basically discussion.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
I guess we're good, it's just that, which everyone's agreed to, we're going to have some clarification for information.
Correct.
Thank you.
No, it's better to do a little fine fixes here so that
Absolutely.
details. But everyone, thank you for your patience with that. Any other citizens out there like Mr. Shank, if you could recognize yourself, please?
Mr. Shank, Townsend resident. Mr. Chair, I'd like to just talk a little bit about the communications budget, if I could, for a second.
Well, at this point, are we jumping around, or are we going to stay with section at a time?
We can jump.
We can jump? All right. Again, I'm just looking, go ahead, Mr. Shank, I'm just trying to be effective, that's all right? So, give me patience, and I will give you respect back. What was your question, Mr. Shank, about the FY18 budget, please?
I just got a question. The original budget that was sent out, an email that I did, I kind of was looking at communications budget, and originally it was posted at $389,000, and it's down to $255, which is about $130,000, and I understand there's been a little bit of clarification about that. The new budget looks like it's approximately $120,000 less than what the budget was proposed for. My question is, when the communications center was presented to everybody at the public meeting, the recommendation that was told to the citizens of the town of Townsend that they were going to keep the communication budget intact so that we could not be in the bad position that we are now to have to leave town because it costs us $1 million.
Just one more, Mr. Shank. So what is your question, so I can ask Mr. Crowley answer your question, please?
Well, I'm getting to it.
All right, well, we can make it a little more concise, because I'm actually losing track here, if you can make your question.
It should be easy.
Well, it isn't, so could you just ask a question, Mr. Shank, please?
So, if the money is taken out, because the money was going to stay in the budget so we could maintain and keep our equipment up, and the Board of Selectmen took and said that they were going to go along with their recommendations, and just for the record, the letters that were both sent and presented to us at that meeting, one by the police chief and one by the fire chief, and one of their recommendations, they said that would happen in the community. I'll just read one part of it. It says, all savings
Mr. Shank, point of order, please.
What's your question?
What is your question? The whole board here.
Where is the money?
I'm going to turn to Mr. Kryler to see if he can
Where is it
decipher.
going?
Right, I'm going to give Mr. Kryler an attempt here to decipher your editorial.
I'm tracking with him.
All right, thank you for that.
The letters you're referencing come from the late October public hearing that was held in the Great Hall regarding regionalization. And the recommendation was that that money that was in this year's fiscal 17 budget would be applied towards the communication center going forward. So whatever's on the table today is going to be on the table tomorrow. You're correct in saying that what's in the operating budget falls shy of that. You say it's 120, but it's actually 175,000 when the dust settles that should be being appropriated for capital expense to upgrade our infrastructure. The letters also reference that. We have radio tower issues, we have microwave tower issues, and the chiefs said that it's probably a 3 to 5 year process to get all of that up to par. So their recommendation, which the board supported, was to keep that. It's roughly $175,000 for capital each year going forward. And capital at $175,000 does not belong in an operating budget. It's anathema to public budgeting to have capital, particularly at that extent, in an operating budget. So what you'll see, and we've talked about this at other meetings of the Select Board already, and at the Finance Committee last week, what you'll see is a standalone article on the floor of town meeting to appropriate that money for capital purposes, as was requested by both chiefs.
Okay, and that's the question I was asking. Where would we find that money, or how is it going to be appropriated?
You'll see a standalone special article on the floor of the annual town meeting for the $175,000.
Thank you.
And if I might add, Joe, it's almost similar to roadside maintenance. We're trying to appropriate an additional capital amount for highway. By having in that article, if for some reason the chief didn't get to the towers within the fiscal year, that money can be carried forward for that project. So if it was in the budget, it'll go back into the general fund. So this allows the money to be added to it each year, and it allows it to be carried forward to the next fiscal year, if necessary.
Cindy, do you have anything?
They don't have a time strain.
And the Finance Committee, do you have anything? Okay. Mr. Schenker, you all set at this time?
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Is there any other questions at this time? Thank you. Mr. Crowley, could you direct us to where you think we might want to go next?
This is a balanced budget, as is called for in the bylaw and in the charter. It reflects accurately what I've heard as policy direction from the Select Board, to whom I'm responsible. I presented it to the Finance Committee and noted their concerns. I'll work with the Finance Committee over the next several days to find out exactly what your final recommendation will look like. And then this will be revised one more time to have the Finance Committee recommended column, because ultimately that's what goes to the floor of town meeting. If you get that recommendation finalized between now and next Tuesday, I would then be able to bring that before the board, and to the extent that the board concurs with your recommendation, I always find it to be a matter of good business if you've got the chief elected and chief appointed agreeing on what that budget going to town meeting is. So then the people sitting in the room that are coming and relying on us all know that there was consensus reached.
Carolyn, do you have anything to add? No. Cindy? Finance Committee, do you have anything to add?
We'll discuss all our changes on Thursday, so I should be able to have something to you by Tuesday.
I can come if you like.
All set, folks? Yep, I just want to make sure we're all set before we go outside.
This one that you sent me for the water,
Yes.
that's the revised one?
I'm not certain which one you've got in your hand, but in the packet that I just gave you, there is the revised one. And I apologize, Mr. Chairman, if we could just address that briefly, because there is...
Absolutely. I'll get to you, Ms. Lizio, after this here.
Outside of the operating budget, on the very back page is the water department budget.
Yeah.
And what you'll see is that there is a revision that appears under the water department budget. Basically, 8 lines down, you'll see a shaded cell that says $6,000.
Right.
And that is new from the earlier version. I did get a request for a revision from Mr. Rayfuse, and you'll note that it says $6,000, and the notation is per union contract. So prior submission of the budget was before the union contract for the supervisors was finalized. Now that it's been finalized, there is a $500 per month auto allowance that Mr. Rayfuse gets, which is $6,000 a year. So he submitted this revised budget to be able to account for that.
Okay. You good?
Yes.
Thank you. And everyone else is good? Thank you. Ms. Lizzie, you had a question, please.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Carter, how would you describe our revenue projections? Conservative? Just for an idea of, what's the upside, if there is an upside. And I know we're just dealing with the House passing their budgets.
Right. Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Licio, I think you attended the meeting of the Collins Institute when Mr. Cirillo made the presentation on the revenue projections. He used the term conservative when he was making his presentation. If you dig down into the documentation, you'll actually see that there is a projection percent column, and looking at this live online, there is a live version that's not manipulable, but it is, you can see the formulas. So you'll see, for instance, things like 2.5% that he's carrying for the expense sides on the projections, and then only 1% that he's carrying for the revenue side. So he erred on the side of going high on the expense and low on the revenue, which again is probably why he came to the term conservative.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Lizzie. Sure, absolutely.
Specifically, I don't know when all of the input was put in the last time, so I'm just questioning what's in there in terms of estimates for state aid.
Mr. Chair, through you to Ms. Licio. What's being carried right now for state aid is the governor's House 1 for unrestricted general government aid, which when you look at what the House of Representatives just put out a week and a half ago, the unrestricted government aid is dollar for dollar the same. So you can call it the governor's, you can call it the House version. It's the most current and accurate that we've got. That's what's in that line now.
Sure. And school aid?
School aid, you and I did have that conversation. I reached back out. That was not a recert. That was a reduction that they voted, but there has been an increase in regional transportation aid, so they do have the ability to go back for recert. I'm not certain that they will, but at this point we are budgeted against their higher number.
So that's an upside?
Yes, potentially.
Thank you.
And if I want to add, Ms. Licio brought up a good point, because one of the things that we did last year was budget even more conservative than what the Collins Institute has suggested for this year, which has allowed us to absorb the increase in assessments with the school. We knew last year that they were going to be asking us for more this year, and that's why I think we only grew $45,000 in expenses last year, so that we wouldn't have to go back out and ask the voters. So we've been trying to build in the increases that we know are coming within this budget long term, so it's more stable going out.
Is everyone all set out there? Good. Any questions from Cindy or Carolyn? Mr. Crowley, you all set? All set. And the Finance Board, are you all set? Before, with the permission of my board here, before we go to 3.1, I just want to try to say it eloquently, which I don't always do, but to the folks out there at Townsend, I'm probably the least knowledgeable up here, so if I can understand it, most people should be able to understand it. It's thanks to a lot of effort, a lot of good people that work for you professionals going out, and Mr. Crowley's going to give us an update, but he's been busy. We've secured over $500,000 of grants to help us do a better job for you. And part of that was the Collins Institute. And through audits and through this, we know where all your money is, so we're not going to be coming to you to ask to pay for life insurance and other things that weren't done. So this is a tribute to all you folks here. I think that Townsend, we know where the money is, and we're providing services that are necessary. So I thank all of you for all your effort and hard work. And even the ones that aren't here, whether it's the counseling agent or the highway people, you're all working hard and trying to give the taxpayers the most bang for the dollar. So I'm proud to know you people. So thank you for quality work. That's all I have to say. Thank you, folks. We'll move on, if it's all right with the board.
Finance Committee can't leave. We got to go through the Capitol.
Saving me here, so thank you. What would that be?
That's right underneath the
All right,
budget.
thank you.
Yeah.
So we're going to do 2.22, approve FY18 capital plan. This is part of our transition, where Carolyn's been, and Cindy and Jim have been carrying the ball. I've been most involved in negotiations, so I'll ask Carolyn and Jim and Cindy to sort of jump in with that, if you don't mind. Carolyn, I guess.
Carolyn?
So I guess Carolyn's been doing more work.
So Thursday, we went to the Finance Committee to outline what the Capital Planning Committee has authorized. The 5-year plan was put together, and there's a total of $2,266,150 in requests for FY18. What the capital planning does is meet with all the departments and try and whittle it down to something that we could possibly afford. And anything that's not authorized goes on to the next year. There's a grading system involved. There is $990,000 that the Capital Planning Committee has approved for authorization to borrow. That is an additional amount. The fire chief had asked for an additional $750,000 on his West Townsend Fire Station. They went to work, they sent it out to bid with the $1 million that was already approved, and they were approximately $400,000 short of the lowest bid. They wanted $750,000. The Capital Planning Committee authorized up to $500,000 to be borrowed, and in doing that, they send it back out to bid. They only need $400,000 for the contract. That $100,000 doesn't need to be borrowed, so that's why it's worded in that manner. It's up to $500,000. The other issue was the tanker truck, which we've talked about numerous times. It's very much needed. The tanker truck that exists is 30 years old, and we authorized the same up to what he had requested, $490,000, because that, again, will have to go out to bid, and we're hoping it'll come in substantially lower, and then we won't have to borrow for that. But the other projects that we did approve, there was $200,000 put in the capital stabilization account at the special town meeting, and there was also $166,000 already within the capital stabilization account. So what capital planning authorized for that account, pending the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee's recommendation, Cemetery and Parks had asked for $40,000 on their 5-year plan. We authorized $15,000 for a used single-wheel 1-ton truck with plow. We did talk to the Cemetery and Parks Department. It was their idea to try and go used, and they feel comfortable with that amount. The Highway Department wanted truck-mounted ground speed spreader controls to help with the salt program. That was $46,000. As we recently discussed roadside repairs, we've been trying to appropriate anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 a year. This year, we're suggesting it come from capital stabilization versus free cash. Body armor for the police department in the amount of $25,000. The police chief had also requested, I think it was $70,000, I can look on there, for the interior and exterior painting of the police station that had not gone out to bid. Judging on the fact we paid about $33,000 for Memorial Hall, the Capital Planning Committee felt comfortable with $35,000 to paint the exterior of the police station. We also approved $23,950 to replace the defibrillators. You'll notice on the other funding source, the vehicles for the police are funded through tax levy, but that's put on your capital plan because it is considered a capital expenditure. ALS equipment replacement, $56,900. That's coming out of the ambulance reserve receipts for appropriation. And then the tanker and the West Townsend Fire Station. And of course, all the Water Department articles, they requested $50,000 for the Main Street cleaning, $50,000 for the master plan, $60,000 for the main line gate valve replacement, and $110,000 for the Meadow Road main replacement. That all comes out of the water enterprise funds. So the work of the Capital Committee is done. It's up to the Selectmen to accept and the Finance Committee to ultimately recommend. And we did meet and discuss that with them. The reason this would usually be done on March 1st and completed, but we weren't sure what our free cash was. We had to wait for the special town meeting in order to know what was going to be available for capital to spend. So that's why the late report on it.
Cindy, you have any questions?
I do.
Thank you.
So the things that are in the far left column are the things that are going to be funded with the money that we have in capital stabilization already.
Yeah, this is the capital stabilization.
Okay.
This is funding other, and the funding other is listed on the bottom there.
Right. So I just want to go over it. So the 38 is raise and appropriate for the cruiser. Is that, yeah, that's
tax levy, yep.
And then the next 3 things we're going to borrow?
2.
Next.
Authorization to borrow would be the $500, up to $500 for the West Townsend Fire Station, and up to $490 for the tanker.
And the 56 is going to be from ambulance reserve receipts?
Yes.
So that's a transfer?
Yes.
For money that they raised from?
Yeah,
okay.
so it transfers from ambulance.
I'm trying to, questioning so that the audience hears that. Then the other things are water, which is coming out of water receipts.
Yes, water enterprise.
Within their own funds. So all we're asking is to approve the expenditures for the capital stabilization and then the borrowing for the other things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the ultimate number that's going to be coming out of the capital stabilization account, if everyone agrees, will be $244,950, and the total amount approved for capital this year would be $1,599,850.
Okay, Finance, do you have any thoughts on this?
We can give we'll look it over and give an approval Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, and I presented this to them Thursday,
right.
So they haven't had a full discussion on it. But
Mr. Crowley, you have anything to add?
All set.
The only thing, these are questions, these are not, and I will, you might have the answers and some might not require answers. Everyone knows the salt thing. It's my thing, all right? It's, well, being honest with you, and where that money that Carolyn, who's been to appropriate, that will actually save us money. So it's nice when sometimes we have to spend money, but when we spend money, and it's going to save us money and do a better job. So the reason for that machine back there is that they can actually control inventory of the salt going out and manage it in a professional manner. And the other is, I've had probably more people come up to me tell how happy they're not taking the sand off their things, and we're not paying to pick that up. So that, I just want to point out that sometimes we spend money, we actually save money, and that's that point. So I'll refer this as not, and before anyone starts getting crazy here, on the body armor. I want everyone to have body armor. My only question would be is if you folks, I don't know if it's available or not at this late date, body armor has specifics how it's replaced. So it's unusual unless everyone bought their body armor all at the same time, because it has dates. So we have employees who might start a year ago, and why are we buying them new? And I'm not saying we not need to do it, but those are specific. I think someone over here has an answer.
So the capital money stays, that they actually had an appropriation in there from 6 or 7 years ago, and it's run out. That money just stays there, and it's used as needed.
Okay.
Also, there was a reimbursement grant from the last time. So what we've decided to do is let the reimbursement grant go into the general fund and keep the appropriation there. So this $25,000 won't be spent all at once. It'll be spent as needed when the body armor expires or new people start.
And this is why I rely on it. So, but that's a fair question, and it's not that we're not committed to that. We just want to make sure that we're getting the most bang for the dollar while providing the most safety. And then on a side issue, me and Mr. Cryer will maybe address some of these to keep it sustainable for collective bargaining. So I don't have any more questions. Let me just get everyone here, and I'll go out to the audience in a second.
Well, they said they could find them.
You were just questioning the truck for $15,000?
Yeah, we had talked about that. I actually got an email from Roger. I wish I had bought it. He felt very comfortable with the $15,000 finding a used truck. Yeah. I guess he's been out shopping. Yeah. If it comes with a plow, it just doesn't have to have the plow. It's basically for the truck. And when I revise it for town meeting, it'll probably just say for a used single-wheel dump truck. And what they do is they do like a 3-quote thing. They'll say, I want a truck between the year of this and this with this, between this and this mileage, and they'll go out to the different dealerships.
The bidding process, 3 quotes.
Yeah, because I asked him, I said, you sure you're comfortable with that? And he said, I'm sure I'm comfortable with
As our purchasing officer, are you happy with that, Mr. Brown?
That's the process. Now, on that painting of the building, well, that building is considerably smaller than this one. So it's like $35,000.
We didn't have a bid to go by, which we reduced it just from 70 to 35. So it can only be spent on painting the exterior of the building. So when he goes out to bid, it comes in at 25. That money can be returned back into the general fund. That way he'll have enough there for the bid, and because it is prevailing wage, so you never know.
And if we got,
I know.
And the other thing is, if we ever got lucky, that I don't know if there's an expertise group in the DOC that they got for over here, not just general laborers. I'm just putting it out there, not saying that, but if we ever could get them freed up.
I think we've had prisoners in the past.
Right, but there's a higher level prisoners. I don't mean. No, I don't mean. I got to be careful and say, but there's people who just do manual grunts. Right. But like if you see some of the finished work over here, there's specific groups, and usually they're people doing more time, and they're developing vocational skills. So I'm just saying, this has been appropriated, but if by some miracle we've found them, somehow enhanced them to come out here, that's an option. That's all. But the good thing is it's going to get done for that set amount of money, one way or the other.
And that money can only be used for that purpose, and so it went back to town meeting to be reappropriated for another purpose. So what happens lots of times when the capital articles are finished and there's money left over, that money's either transferred back into capital stabilization or released to go into free cash. So either way. The police chief said that the program for the prisoners, you probably know better, is not allowing them to go on lifts and ladders anymore, is that?
Some, but that's sheriff's, not to get off track here, but we'll look into it, and if it's not there, the money. But the DOC has a highly trained group, but they're hard to get. Actually, they had them doing some of the work at the State House, so you sort of have to. It may not work out, but you know what, I'm always willing to turn over a stone. And,
when was the last time it was painted?
I think the prisoner program did it for Irving. God, I'm going to say 08 maybe?
We can check in that, maybe have it for you, just. But the last thing here, so we can move on, is that if we look at this great building here, and a few of us have been here long enough, the people invested to restore this, but part of the reason it had to be restored is because we didn't keep up with maintenance. And so I really don't ever, and we have facilities now, and that's the thing where facilities saves us money, because the ones that were given to us are treasures, but the rest of them are our buildings. If we invest a little bit, it's cheaper to maintain than replace. So.
And just in defense of the $35,000, that was for a color change. If we were going to repaint the existing color, it probably wouldn't be as expensive. But he wanted to blend it in with the facilities that are there, the senior center, library, like neutral brown tones is what his suggestion was. He wanted to change the color of the building. So there's still flexibility with that too, because if he ultimately decided to just repaint it the same color, it would be a lot cheaper.
Spray for one coat.
But if you are changing, the blue to earth type tones to blend in with the senior center library, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. Ultimately, that's going to be in the bidding process, whatever they decide to send out to bid.
Okay. So are we all good here on this part? Miss Lizzie, you've been waiting patiently.
I'm sorry, one question.
Sure,
no. The budget. Speaking of maintenance, it made me remember last week we talked about a new position in maintenance, and I don't remember you bringing that up tonight.
Actually, I didn't bring it up because there wasn't a question on it.
Everyone agreed on it already.
So I highlighted the areas where there was something of substance said that wasn't resolved. But because you bring it up, there's currently one gentleman who does facilities maintenance for all of our facilities. This building, the library, the senior center, the meeting room, police station, fire to a lesser degree, but still fire, in addition to other buildings that we're not currently using, whether it's the Hart Library or others. He's full-time. He has one started as a senior work-off person and has now moved up to some paid hours. But we've been blessed as a community to get these facilities donated, and I think to go to what Mr. Clark just said, it begins to become a travesty when we've got these gems donated and we don't appropriately staff or fund the maintenance. So there is a new 30-hour position built into this balanced budget proposal that we talked about earlier tonight for that purpose.
I just wanted to make sure people heard that, that's all, because I think it's necessary as well.
Thank you for that. And I think this is a nice spot for get the facts out. So, because a lot of people out there, they hear things and they don't get the facts. So this is why we have public meetings. And going back to the facilities thing here, not only is we used to think before of if something was broken, that type. In the last year, with Mr. Kryler's help and with the support of the board, we've actually, for the first time, have a planned maintenance. Whether it's our fire alarm systems, whether it's changing of filters, so there's actually planned maintenance, and we can budget better, but that things are not forgotten about. The generators actually work when the power goes out. And so those times, you would think, but if you don't have people who do that, it costs us money to fix it because it's not taken care of, but when we need it, like emergency services, it's got to work. So I really believe that under the guidance of everybody here, the facilities is saving us money and taking care of our treasures. So thank you. Can we move forward now?
Does anybody have any questions? Do we want to accept and forward the FY18 capital plan off to FinCom for recommendation? Or?
Make a motion to accept the capital plan?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made. The second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, please, for the record. Thank you. And thank you all for your input.
So I know I emailed you the 5-year plan and the additional worksheets, so I'll email you the article that I put together so you can... Okay.
And if they don't have it, copy.
Thank you.
Okay, so you want like some of these made for you?
I have.
Okay, so you're just going to... All right.
Yeah, I'll copy this.
All right.
Yeah.
If it's all right with everyone, I'm going to move on to 3.1. Appointment of officials, personnel, and votes may be taken. And the first we'll deal with is reappointment of Claire. How do we say that last name, please?
Copy.
Ken.
Durian.
Thank you, and Michelle Bustler to the Historic District Commission for a 3-year term effective April 18, 2017 to June 30th, 2020. Do we have any discussion at this time?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Claire Calpe, Ken Gerarian, and Michelle Bustle to the Historic District Commission for a 3-year term effective April 18th, 2017 to June 30th, 2020.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please show the record it's unanimous. Moving on now to 4.1, meeting business. Review signed Chapter 90 project request, Mason and Proctor, in the amount of 6,600 feet.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the project request to liquid track between mill surface and new asphalt from Old Turnpike Road to the New Hampshire border in the amount of $6,600.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. 4.2, review and sign Chapter 90 project request, Proctor, in the amount of $165,500.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Chapter 90 project request for the resurfacing from Haynes Road to the town line in the amount of $165,500.
Motion's been made second. All in favor? Aye. Let the record show that unanimous. 4.3, review and sign Chapter 90 project request referencing Mason in the amount of $117,330.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Chapter 90 project request to resurface from Old Turnpike Road to the New Hampshire border in the amount of $117,330.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. 4.4, review and sign road opening permit referencing Main Street at Worcester Road.
Where is that? I don't think I have that. That's okay. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the road opening permit for Unitil, Fitchburg Gas and Electric, for service valve repair.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Let the record show that. 4.5.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, do you want
Absolutely.
us to sign the Chapter 90, or do we want to make a motion to sign them all outside of a meeting?
Yeah, I mean, you can sign them as you go, or we can just
Okay.
wait till the end.
All right.
What's your preference?
Doesn't matter to me.
You want to sign them now? Would that be easier?
That's fine.
All right, we're just going to take a moment to sign these.
We do have a few more things, though.
All right, so you want us to do it
Continue
after?
and then
Yeah,
sign
okay.
with the-
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all. We just want to be more
I think when
efficient.
we take a break,
Yes,
we're
that's a
going to take a
good
break
idea.
before the executive session. That would be a good time for us to sign.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. So, 4.6, with your indulgence here. Review and sign Chapter 90 reimbursements referencing culvert replacement engineering in the amount of $37,883.10.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we approve the Chapter 90 reimbursement for the replacement of the culvert engineering in the amount of $37,883.10.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show unanimous. 4.7, review and sign application for permit by Townsend Water Department referencing to cut road if needed at 104 Turnpike Road for a new service.
Mr. Chair, this was approved by the Highway Superintendent, so I would move that we approve and sign the application for the Townsend Water Department to cut the road if needed at 104 Turnpike Road for new service.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show it's unanimous. And then we're going to, we already done 4.8. We'll move to 4.9. Approve the creation of a gift donation account for Townsend Squanicook River cleanup. Mrs. Smart, you had a little paperwork on that. If you could tell us about it, please.
Yeah, we had discussed this at one of the meetings that Conservation had come to. They were requesting that we set up a donation account. It's going to assist them with the process of cleaning up the Squanicook River. I believe they gave us 4 dates that they were working with, one starting in June. So this is a simple vote of the Board of Selectmen so that our accountant can deposit any funds or any donations that they receive They did type up what the account would be used for, so I'll read this. The purpose of the account will be to collect funds, donations to assist in the cleanup of the Squanicook River in Townsend. Funds are needed for various items pertaining to this endeavor, and include, but are not limited to, expenses for waste removal, biofuel, sanitation facilities, chainsaws, safety courses. Any interest on this account will remain with the account. So this would just be a matter of a simple vote to set up the gift donation account, and I would just attach this to our vote on record so that the account would know what it would be used for.
That's a good idea.
So I would move that we set up the gift donation account for the Townsend Squanicook River cleanup under the control of, that's the one thing, sorry, I didn't mean to mess up a motion, but what, is it going to be under the conservation control, the donation gift?
They're the ones that asked for it.
Okay. So I'll repeat that, sorry.
She's gonna say
Good
it
enough?
first. Do you understand what she wants to say, Kelly?
Okay.
So it's...
Under the
motion-
control of conservation.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. And Ms. Meredith, if you could make sure, as Selectman Smart asked, that that's attached to the documents. Thank you for that. I just have a question for the board of Mr. Crowder, looking for a piece of advice. On 4.1 through 4.9, do we need a motion to sign that out of session? All those there? All right, go.
I'll move, Mr. Chair, that we sign all of the Chapter 90 requests and reimbursements previously discussed prior to the executive session.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show it's unanimous. I would refer to my two board members here at this time. Do you want a break after the 5s or before the 5s here? After.
Yeah, I think we can.
Okay.
I think we can make it if Mr. Feather doesn't think it's too
All right. Very brief.
All right, we're going to go to this. It's 5.1. Town Administrator updates and reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First is 5.1 personnel. We received the resignation letter from Karen Chapman, our land use coordinator. She has, I think quite to her credit, she's been hired on as the principal planner or chief planner for Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. A significant upgrade in responsibility and at a pay rate that we can't quite touch. So she has done yeoman's work for us here long before my arrival, and even in the short time that I've been with you, she's been a resource. So I will be accepting the resignation on your behalf with regrets and sending a letter to that effect.
Thank you for that.
I think we can add that when she works at MRPC, we still have access.
Yes, she's going to be doing all of it, helping us
Having
with our grant.
somebody in.
We have an in there. I'd like to wish Karen luck as well. I know she's excited. She's well trained for it, and I think she's going to do great.
Good for her. Congratulations.
Next, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if anyone knows this Steve Cloutier. Steve Cloutier has given his letter of resignation as well. It's heartbreaking when you've got somebody that is here nights, weekends, somebody that before you think of something that needs to be done, they've already built it. Steve's not leaving us. He's leaving our employ, but we have our hooks in him pretty good still. So he'll be around, and we'll be able to wheedle and cajole him back every now and again to help us with stuff. But want to wish Steve the best in going back to the real paying world in the private sector, and just on behalf of the board, again, a letter of acceptance with regret. But personally, Steve, I've learned. I make believe I don't understand technology, so people do it for me. But I truly have no idea what it is you do or how you do it, so I've tried to listen, and I've learned quite a bit just being around you, and I thank you for that.
I just want to make a couple of comments if possible.
Absolutely.
Working here, I'm going to a software development position that pays literally more than twice as much money as I'm getting. Now, as much as I love working for the town, and I particularly love working with Jim Prider, I just want to say that publicly. He is an excellent manager, you're an excellent delegator, and you're an excellent listener. And I've had nothing but positive experiences working with you. Nothing but my entire time here, and I just want people to know that. We're very lucky to have you.
I should have let you say that before I said the nice things.
Oh, anyway, it wouldn't have mattered. I would have said that. So that's where I'm going, but I'm still going to be around helping here and there. So, and we did find a very, very capable person to replace me, who actually will be better than I am, so that's even better. So that's later on in the thing, I believe.
Actually, it's the very next thing. The very next thing. We had a posting for the position, and Steve, in another of his capacities, did the recruitment and screening, because again, it would be like me trying to interview somebody who is fluent in Russian, and I'm not. Just listening to the two of them in my office last week talking was proof of that I had no idea what it is that they do and how they do it. But Basim Awad is somebody that comes with 21 years of experience in a municipality doing IT and network work. The position that he held in the community of Weymouth was eliminated due to budget reasons, and their loss is our benefit. We've had a bit of a holding pattern that we've put around this while we revisit, just for the sake of making certain that we're doing our due diligence on behalf of the community, reviewing whether or not having a staff person, physically a body on payroll here to perform, or having a company that is on contract is in our best interest. And we came to the decision last year that having a body was in our interest, not even in large part, but entirely because the body we knew was this one. And it may be that the body of Basim is going to be that guy as well. So the recommendation that's here is for a 30-day rolling hire. Now, if I were Mr. Awad, I'd be happy to have an offer of employment. I'd be more happy if it was something a little more substantive than a 30-day rolling. I'll leave it to the board in your discussions when I shut my mouth in a moment to determine whether you think 30-day rolling is appropriate, if you think a 90-day or a 6-month or whatever period within which we can get a good handle on which way we want to go. And if whatever that time period is, we determine sooner than later that we want to go with the body, and this is the body that comes recommended by Mr. Cloutier, then we're there already. So obviously, if I were him and I was hearing it's a 30-day, I'd still have my resume out. I'd still be looking because my family would come first. I'd hate, while we're figuring out which way we want to go, I hate to lose an opportunity to have somebody that comes as highly regarded as this gentleman. So, whatever the board's pleasure.
Carolyn, your thoughts?
Well, if we appointed him and just had a 6 to 9 month probationary period, that would allow you to study and look at with somebody who is educated and well versed in this, what our needs would be, plus a fresh set of eyes from where Steve has led off. I wouldn't blame him for continuing to look elsewhere if we're only... And IT jobs are good folks are hard to come by in those positions.
Particularly with municipal experience.
It is, because we're very different than the private sector. And every department has different needs IT-wise. So it's different programs, different databases. Every department has their own individual...
Plus, he has an inclination to save money. That's one of the things that I came away with in our meeting was he's
cheap. We like that.
Well, frugal. Frugal, that's it. There you go. Cindy, do you have any thoughts?
Steve's wonderful about getting our computers from eBay, and things that saved us. Folks don't even know the amount of money that Mr. Cloutier has saved this town.
Cindy, do you have any thoughts?
My only thoughts are making sure that we keep the opportunity and the conversation with whoever is in this position to look at, to keep it open, all of our alternatives. There's all kinds of things happening. I think I have to say it to anybody in IT that you can blink and there's changes to just the things we have in our house. I used to be the one for my parents. Oh, Cindy, can you come program the VCR for me? That was the high tech of, now I can't, I just got a new washer yesterday. I can't use it yet, because it's got a picture of a cell phone. You program it with your cell phone. I have no idea how to even turn it on. So, I mean, but there's so many, just to use that as an example, that as far as running a town, or there's so many different opportunities that we might have to really expand our IT and technology and just community presentations, and I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing on what the best plan is, whether it's to have one person or a group, or even, I hate to say the word regionalization, but I mean, I want to open the conversation. This is an opportunity, I think, for us to have that conversation.
I'll go to Carolyn in a second, if you don't mind, Carolyn.
No, that's all.
Because I'm old and I forget my thoughts here. But what I try to do is, and I will try to do it as the chair, but even when I was sitting there, is I always try to listen to you, too, because there's a lot of knowledge there. And I have a thought, and I'm going to give it back to you, but I also try to listen to people we hire as professionals, all right? But then eventually the buck stops here. So my idea is, I hear that Cindy says there's a lot of change here. And on the other hand, good people hard to get. And I would think, put this out there for both of you, just to have an open conversation, is that I wouldn't be opposed, as long as you two are happy with it, that we hire for a 6 to 9 month, but that at 5 months, we do a review of the position. And does that seem reasonable or not, Carolyn? You tell me.
Yeah, I think appointing him to the position would give him a little bit of security, but I think he's going to be a part of a committee or group to look at long-term
We're
goals.
investing him. On the other hand, we have a way out if the marriage wasn't good, without doing harm.
Yeah, and that's what, we can expand the probationary period
My
to 9
thinking,
months.
I'm not thinking that a person is not going to be a good
Right,
fit.
but I just wanted
That's
to make
not at
sure.
all my thought.
and I'm
My
picking that
thoughts
up.
are
Looking at all the
technology,
needs.
like what are our options, what's the best mix for the town to move forward, without thinking about who the person is, but what's the best way to
And there's
make
valid ways
sure
to
we
do
have
that.
the best
Yeah.
technological plan, and even if we have to have another committee to keep that conversation going, are we meeting the needs of all the departments as well as the public on the technologies that's available in this building?
And that's a valid, and just the proof here, this
And
document
the
here
town,
is
not
that
just this building.
we get experts in here and they tell us a better way to make the donut. So, so I think that would be, but it's up to you two, and I'll go, if you two are happy, I will absolutely go along with it, but if some kind of hire you and a review type of thing, and then if it's
Now,
working.
Jim had put on here the 30-day rolling, and then Carolyn mentioned the 6-month. I mean, what
would you be happy with, Carolyn?
what would work better?
Well, we did look at the differences between a contract and employee, and ultimately that's why we decided to go an employee. Was it a large part to do with the person? Yes, I guess it is, but it's been very, very successful. I know Acuity has put in proposals, and we've been on contract for years, and we were fortunate when Mr. Cloutier had the contract, and then somebody else had the contract. She was a wonderful person, but it's kind of when you go into contract and you're going out to bid every 3 years, like you have to. Things get out of control with your IT structure.
But at this stage, I'm fine with hiring this man.
Okay.
My only question would be, at this, I mean, Jim put on here, it's 30-day rolling hire, and you're talking 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, well, it would be a probationary period for 9 months.
Probation actually gives us that, just say in a different way.
Exactly. Within 9 months, if you have a committee and you meet and you want to go in a different direction, you can let him go within the 9 months. Without cause.
That's per the bylaw.
Yes, yes. And also, but everything, it's nicer when everything ties in. So my little gig you people gave me was to make, which they weren't before, all our collective bargainings talk to each other, they're consistent. Right. Well, 80% of our collective bargaining now we're at a year now for probation. Right. And that is good business sense, because you get a look to see if it's working out, but you get a look to see if some people don't work good in the winter. So you need a year to look at, because we're investing, they're investing us, but we're investing a lot in these people. So, and the other thing is, I look out at other communities not going on here, and we did a lot of research, and nobody was at 6 months. The state, towns, everyone's a year. So I'd be happy with whatever you do, 9 months or whatever. But I think we're all on the same page. It's just how we get there, and I think how we get there is, let's tell this person we believe in them. mostly because of Steve believes in them, to be honest, cut for the baloney, right? But the other is that, on the other hand, that we have some control if it doesn't work out. Is that, you know what I'm saying?
And allows discussion with
Right.
the specialist and maybe you know,
Yeah.
to look at our future IT.
Even if we hire for 6 months, I don't want to be here at 5 months saying, oh, now we're going to revisit this. No, I'd like to have make sure that all of us in the room know that we're going to have a dialogue with this
And that's why I said that.
employee, to keep that conversation going.
What
to
happened a
have
month before with decisions?
to say, okay, what do we want, and how are things looking, and
I-
department head, I know Jim's having department head meetings,
Which
either
is great.
have a technology conversation, not revisit this in 5 months, how's he doing? I don't want to...
So would you be comfortable with a motion to authorize Jim to hire him with a 9-month probationary period contingent upon, discussions, ongoing discussions about our IT needs?
Sure, but with the intent that we're going to, it doesn't have to be part of the motion.
But it's gonna be a
We're going to
meeting.
have meetings.
Yeah, well,
Department heads without us, and then keep us posted, or whoever's on the board, to discuss the plan.
So we're good with that? So
Yeah, I'm
I'll
good.
move to authorize the town administrator to hire, say his name, I'm horrible. Thank you.
Second.
With a 9-month probationary period with the future IT discussions.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With the record show it's unanimous with a cooperative effort. Thank you both.
Mr. Chairman, the next item, I'm going to ask you permission to hold till your meeting next week, and that's the consideration of draft warrant articles and motions for North Middlesex Regional. There are a couple conversations that need yet to be had with my counterparts in Pepperell and Ashby regarding what they're doing.
Are you good with that, Carol?
Yeah, it's fine.
And Sydney. So the answer is
Sure.
unanimous.
That's
yes.
like days before. That's like a couple days before the time.
Okay, now, are you still going on?
It's a week.
Are you all done, Mr. Brown?
I'm all set.
Thank you for all that. 5.2, Board of Selectmen announcements, updates, and reports. Carol?
I didn't have any, just, I know I've been finding Earth Day, so I hope to see everyone there. It's a wonderful event, and I'm bringing my puppy, so please bring your animals.
That sounds great. Cindy, you have anything?
Yeah, Carol, and I think there's other things going on that day, too.
Well, there's the international dinner, right, at 5, and what else is happening? The what?
We got the canoe race.
Is that on the same day?
Yeah.
Wow, it's going to be a busy
The canoe
town.
race? I didn't realize that. That's true, because it's usually... So Townsend's going to be popping.
Yeah.
Wow. That'll be fun. I always like to go down to watch them finish them. They start up by the VFW and they go all the way down. I think their lunch afterwards is at Patriot Pizza this year. Is that right?
Something like that.
Yeah. It's fun. Unfortunately, we didn't get the Squanicook River cleanup permit in place in time for this year, but next year they'll be able to just sail through instead of getting out when they're putting it back in.
Well, they can participate in the cleanup.
Yeah. Well, they probably will. I think.
If they bring a bag, they get extra time
As they
taken
go.
off.
Miss Hill actually went to the Lions Club to talk to them.
Oh.
And, yeah, they're all on board. I mean, it's something they've wanted to do for years, so.
All right, so you both all set? I have no...
Right now.
I have no updates or announcements, and I promised somebody that I wouldn't say anything tonight, so I'm going to keep my word. It's
Thank
painful,
you.
but I will say this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on to 5.3. Do we have any minutes to approve?
The executive session minutes for June 7th, I haven't read them, so I'm just going to...
I haven't read it
Did we get them?
Yeah, they're in there.
This is the ones you gave us today, right?
Well, I usually get, well, yeah, I emailed it in the packet.
But just take a second here, folks. If we have any questions, we can put it on for another day.
Did you read these over, Jim? Are you fine with them?
Yeah.
Okay, well then, I have no issue.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion if it's all right with Cindy at this time. If you want to put it off, Cindy, it's up to you.
I'm good.
Okay, Cindy's good for, we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we approve the executive session minutes for June 7th, 2016.
Second by Cindy.
Second.
Motion's been second.
I'm just looking at it, like,
I know.
this was an open session though, right?
It was actually a
Yes.
hearing.
It was a hearing that was open in executive session, but the participants hadn't opened, so it wasn't, right.
Motion's been made and moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, it's reflected there, too.
Yeah, I just want to
Let
make...
the record,
Want to be
Ms.
clear that
Show
we're
that
not
it's unanimous,
approving minutes
please.
for something...
Yeah, technically, it's not executive session,
Yeah.
it's open
this,
session minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, 5.4, can I have a motion to review and cite payroll and bills payable out of session?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we assign the bills payable warrant out of session.
Cindy says second.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Focusing on...
Aye. Let the record reflect that it's unanimous. At this time, we're going to go into executive session where votes may be taken.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would move that we enter into executive session at 7:50 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy or to conduct negotiations with non-union personnel with respect to the town administrator, and to adjourn directly from executive session.
Second.
This requires a roll call vote.
Cindy King, yes?
Carolyn Smart, yes.
Gordon Clark, yes. Let the record show it's unanimous to go into executive session. Folks, thank you, and there's a lot of things coming up this week in Townsend, Earth Day, Canoe Day, what else?
International dinner.
An international dinner, which is delicious. Thank you, Townsend. Be safe and happy.
Thank you.